In today's video, we're looking at supply. And these are the points on the spec we're covering. Starting off with supply, what exactly does it mean? Well, it can be defined as the number of goods or services businesses are willing to sell at a given price at a specific time. For your exams, it is important that you know how to draw a supply graph as well as interpret it. On the y-axis is price, on the x-axis is quantity, and there is the supply curve. The supply curve slopes upwards from left to right. This is because the relationship between price and quantity supplied is direct. This means the higher the price, the higher the quantity supplied, and vice versa. This is because the higher the price, the more money the business is making, and so they are incentivized to produce more. We can see this at play in this example graph. For example, say the price is £10, the quantity that businesses are willing to supply is 5 units. However, if the price was increased to £20, the number of units businesses are willing to supply increases to 9. Now, let's move on to the distinction between movements and shifts in the supply curve. A movement along the supply curve means the curve stays in the same place and is affected by changes in price. This is what a graph of that would look like. We can see at P1, the quantity supplied is Q1, and at P2, it is Q2, and therefore here is the movement along the supply curve. A shift in supply means the curve itself moves, and is affected by factors other than price. A shift to the right of the curve indicates an increase of supply. As we can see on this graph, at S1, P1 goes to Q1. However, if S1 was to shift to the right to become S2, the quantity supplied at P1 moves to Q2. This means suppliers will produce more for the same price. A shift to the left indicates a decrease in supply. As we can see in this graph, on the curve S1, at P1, the quantity supplied is Q1. However, if we were to shift the curve to the left, making S2, then the quantity supplied at P1 falls to that of Q2. This means suppliers will produce less for the same price. Now we know what a shift means, and what it looks like on a graph, let's look at the factors that cause one. And an easy rule to know when thinking of these factors would be anything that influences a business's costs. It could be changes in the cost of production, government subsidies, external shocks, indirect taxes on the business, or new technology. Now we have a brief idea about the factors, let's look at them in a bit more detail. Starting with changes in the cost of production. If something makes it more expensive for a firm to produce goods, then it will de-incentivize them to do so. So here is a question for you to try. If a firm's utility bills increase, what would be the impact on quantity supplied? Pause the video now and have a go. The answer is that the utility bills becoming more expensive increases the firm's costs. This means the firm is de-incentivized and so is willing to produce less. This causes the shift to the left as shown, from S1 to S2. Now we can move on to government subsidies. These are effectively when the government gives firms money in the form of grants. And this of course means a reduction in the business's costs. So here is an example question. If the government announces they will subsidize electric car manufacturers, what will happen to the supply of electric cars? Now pause the video and have a go. The answer is that since the subsidy would mean lower costs, car firms would be willing to supply more, and so the curve shifts to the right from S1 to S2, meaning quantity supplied moves over to Q2. Now, let's move on to external shocks. An unexpected event can cause major changes in supply. For example, COVID-19 meant that many hospitality sector firms had to stop business. So, here's a question for you to have a go at. What impact would COVID-19 have had on bars and restaurants in terms of supply? So, pause the video and give it a go yourself. Of course, the answer is that it would cause supply to decrease. Therefore, S1 would shift to S2 as seen here, and then quantity supplied would be reduced from Q1 to Q2. Now, we can look more into indirect taxes. If the government imposed an indirect tax onto businesses, it means their cost of production increases, and so they are less incentivized to produce. Here's a question to try. What would the impact of an increase in VAT be on a firm's supply? Pause the video and have a go. Increased VAT means increased costs. This means businesses are less willing to produce. Therefore, S1 shifts to the left to become S2, and quantity supplied decreases from Q1 to Q2. Lastly, we can move on to new technology. If a new technological advancement means that a firm's production is more productive and cheaper, they will be making more profit from producing, and so be incentivized to produce more. A question could be, what would the impact on car manufacturers be following the introduction of robots that are cheaper and more productive than human workers? Pause the video and give it a go. Of course, if these robots are better and cheaper than human workers, it will greatly reduce the costs for car firms. This will result in a shift to the right of the supply curve from S1 to S2, meaning quantity supplied moves from Q1 to Q2. Anyway, that's all for today's video. Thank you for watching. If the video was helpful in any way, make sure to like, subscribe, and share it with your friends.